He looked like the perfect neighbor, the kind everyone trusted. But one quiet night, a single disappearance unraveled a carefully hidden life of deception, leaving a town to wonder, how could evil hide in plain sight? The town of Briarwood sat quietly on the edge of a wooded highway, known for early mornings, clean sidewalks, and routines that never changed. People locked their doors out of habit, not fear. Children biked after school. Neighbors exchanged brief smiles and returned to their lives. Among them lived Lucas Hale, a middle-aged accountant whose days followed a careful pattern. He woke at the same hour, left for work on time, and returned home before dusk. His lawn was trimmed weekly. His trash was always sorted. His bills were paid early. Nothing about him drew attention. Lucas worked for a regional firm, rarely missed a deadline, and avoided office drama. He volunteered during seasonal drives, donated modestly, and attended community meetings without speaking much. His home reflected the same restraint. Neutral colors, minimal furniture, no clutter. His car was washed regularly and parked in the same spot each night. To outsiders, his life looked balanced and responsible. Briarwood valued people like Lucas. In a town built on predictability, he fit perfectly. When conversations turned to safety, residents often pointed to streets like his as proof that nothing bad could happen there. Crime was something seen on television, not something that touched their blocks. Lucas was never loud, never angry, never emotional. He blended into the background with ease. What no one noticed was how deliberate that normality was. Every routine, every habit, every quiet gesture served a purpose. Lucas Hale did not stand out, and that was exactly the point. In Briarwood, normal meant safe. And Lucas looked normal in every possible way. No one questioned the silence, or wondered why perfection sometimes hides the most dangerous intentions of all. The first sign that something was wrong arrived quietly, without alarms or urgency. Megan Rowe lived 2 houses down from Lucas Hale, a freelance graphic designer known for keeping to herself. She worked from home, met deadlines reliably, and followed a predictable schedule. One Monday morning, she failed to log into a virtual meeting. By afternoon, her phone rang unanswered. Coworkers assumed she was sick. By the next day, concern began to grow. Megan's social media accounts went silent. No posts, no activity. Friends checked her apartment and found it locked, lights off, and untouched. Her car sat parked exactly where it always was, dust slowly settling on the windshield. Packages and mail collected near her door, unnoticed at first, then impossible to ignore. Still, there were no signs of struggle. No broken locks. No noise complaints. Nothing that suggested violence. A missing person report was eventually filed, but the response was calm. Briarwood was not a town where people expected the worst. Many believed Megan had left town suddenly for personal reasons. She was single, private, and independent. To some, her disappearance seemed temporary, even intentional. Days turned into weeks. Her bank account showed no activity. Her work clients received no replies. The silence stretched longer than comfort allowed. Yet life in Briarwood continued unchanged. Lawns were mowed. Streets stayed quiet. Lucas Hale walked past Megan's darkened apartment without pause, blending into the same routines as always, while one unanswered question slowly settled into the town like a shadow nobody wanted to face. The absence felt small at first, then heavy, as if something unseen had slipped out quietly and refused to return, leaving behind unease, doubt, routine, certainty. The investigation officially began when detectives Aaron Miles and Rachel Monroe reviewed the missing person report and timelines carefully. They confirmed Megan Rowe had not used her bank cards, accessed email, or traveled after the night she vanished. Her phone last connected to a nearby cell tower shortly before midnight. That tower covered only a few streets in Briarwood. One of them was where Lucas Hale lived. Lucas was interviewed early as part of a routine neighborhood check. Records showed he had been home that night. His employer confirmed he worked remotely the following morning. He had no criminal history, no prior complaints, and no known connection to Megan beyond proximity. He appeared cooperative and calm, offering details without hesitation. Investigators noted nothing suspicious at first. Detective Monroe reviewed traffic cameras while Detective Miles focused on digital data. No vehicles matching Megan's car were seen leaving town. No ride shares were ordered. No hotel bookings appeared. The absence of movement suggested Megan never left Briarwood. Attention slowly shifted inward, toward the neighborhood itself. As officers continued canvassing, Lucas Hale remained present. He volunteered to help post flyers, spoke politely to neighbors, and followed his routine uninterrupted. To anyone watching, he looked like a concerned resident doing his part. The case remained thin, built on gaps rather than facts. Yet investigators understood one truth well. When nothing makes sense, appearances often matter less than patterns. And while Lucas Hale seemed ordinary in every way, his name kept reappearing quietly inside the case file, sitting there patiently, waiting for a reason to be questioned. The quiet pattern unsettled them, though no evidence yet justified suspicion, doubt, pressure, urgency, alarm, fear, concern, unease. Reviewing surveillance footage became the turning point investigators did not expect. Detective Rachel Monroe focused on stores within walking distance of Megan Rowe's apartment, searching for routine activity that might have gone unnoticed. Late one evening, footage from a neighborhood convenience store showed Megan entering alone. Her posture was relaxed, her movements unhurried. Nothing suggested fear or distress. She browsed calmly, selected everyday household items, and paid without hesitation. One purchase stood out. Megan placed a box of heavy-duty trash bags on the counter. Investigators noted the detail but did not yet assign meaning to it. The timestamp showed she left the store shortly before 10 o'clock. Additional cameras confirmed she walked directly back toward her apartment. No footage showed her entering a vehicle or meeting anyone along the way. What troubled investigators was what followed. Cameras covering nearby intersections never captured Megan again. There was no sign of her leaving the area. Detective Monroe compared timelines repeatedly, confirming there were no gaps. Megan returned home, and then she vanished. The items she purchased raised questions. She had bought groceries earlier that day. The trash bags did not match any upcoming move or planned project. Friends later confirmed she had mentioned no travel plans. Her calendar showed nothing unusual scheduled. The investigation shifted focus. Instead of searching highways, bus stations, or airports, detectives narrowed attention to the hours after Megan returned home. The disappearance no longer felt voluntary. It felt contained and sudden. In cases like this, investigators knew truth often hides between ordinary moments. A quiet walk home, a simple purchase, a routine night. Somewhere inside that window, Megan Rowe's normal evening became the last one she had forever. As investigators widened their focus, they began examining the neighborhood itself rather than distant possibilities. Small details, once ignored, started to feel important. Lucas Hale's house drew attention for its quiet precision. His lawn was trimmed evenly. His windows were spotless. Nothing appeared out of place, yet nothing felt lived in either. Security footage became a key concern. Lucas had cameras installed, but their placement was unusual. They covered only his front yard and doorway, never the sidewalk or street. Even more troubling, recordings from the night Megan Rowe disappeared were missing several hours. Lucas explained the gap as a routine system update, a reasonable answer that could not be immediately disproven. Investigators also reviewed trash collection schedules. Records showed Lucas placed his bins outside much earlier than normal the following morning. Neighbors confirmed the timing was unusual. Inside the bins, nothing incriminating remained, but the early disposal stood out against his otherwise rigid routines. None of these facts amounted to proof. Each detail, on its own, meant little, but investigators understood how patterns work. Crimes rarely announce themselves loudly. They reveal themselves through inconsistencies, timing, and behavior that does not quite align. Lucas Hale continued living normally. He went to work. He greeted neighbors. He offered polite concern about Megan's disappearance. From the outside, he looked helpful, even sympathetic. Yet inside the case file, the tone began to change. What once felt like coincidence now felt like structure. And structure suggested planning, not chance. That realization quietly narrowed the investigation, shifting suspicion closer to home, where routines were rehearsed, mistakes minimized, and normal behavior carefully maintained to conceal actions that no one suspected, questioned, or challenged for years unnoticed. The search warrant was executed early, giving investigators their first real look inside Lucas Hale's home. At first glance, nothing seemed wrong. The rooms were clean, organized, and sparsely furnished. Surfaces were clear. Floors shined. The house felt more like a staged property than a place where someone actually lived. Detective Aaron Miles noticed the carpets immediately. They were new, recently installed, and inconsistent with the age of the house. Receipts found in a kitchen drawer confirmed they had been replaced days after Megan Rowe vanished. The walls also showed fresh paint, the kind used to cover more than wear. A faint chemical odor lingered beneath layers of air freshener, subtle but persistent. In the garage, investigators found shelves lined with cleaning supplies. Bottles of bleach, disinfectant, solvents, and gloves were stacked in excess. None were illegal, but the quantity raised concern. More receipts showed these items were purchased late at night, within hours of Megan's disappearance. The bathroom drains were removed and collected for testing. Filters from the vacuum cleaner were sealed as evidence. Every detail mattered now. What once appeared responsible now felt calculated. Lucas Hale maintained composure throughout the search. He followed instructions, answered questions, and showed no visible reaction as items were photographed and boxed. Still, investigators sensed tension beneath the surface. The house did not tell a story of panic or struggle. It told a story of control. By the time the search concluded, the illusion of normalcy was gone. The home no longer felt safe or neutral. It felt prepared, altered, and intentionally silent, as if it had been reset to erase a moment that should never have disappeared from memory, forever erased completely. Digital forensic analysis shifted the case from suspicion to direction. Evan Carter led the review of Lucas Hale's devices, working through layers of deleted data and hidden activity. At first, the computer showed nothing unusual. Browsing history was minimal. Files were neatly organized. But deeper scans revealed patterns that ordinary use could not explain. Weeks before Megan Rowe disappeared, Lucas had searched methods for removing biological traces from carpets, drains, and vehicles. He had also researched how long certain materials could remain detectable. These searches were not random or curious. They were specific, repeated, and carefully timed. Investigators marked the dates and compared them to Megan's schedule. Recovered fragments from a deleted folder raised further concern. File names contained dates and times that matched Megan's movements on the night she vanished. Metadata showed the files had been accessed, then erased, shortly after those timestamps passed. The content itself was unrecoverable, but the structure remained. Phone records added another layer. Lucas had disabled location tracking only once in several years of usage. That window aligned exactly with the period when Megan was last seen returning home. Tracking was reactivated hours later. The change was deliberate. Email drafts never sent were also recovered. They contained lists, reminders, and vague references that suggested preparation rather than emotion. There was no panic, no confusion, no impulsive behavior. By the end of the digital review, investigators no longer questioned whether a crime had occurred. The evidence pointed toward intention and planning. Normal routines had concealed careful steps taken long before Megan Rowe disappeared, transforming quiet habits into proof that something calculated and irreversible had been set in motion beyond suspicion, denial, coincidence, or accidental misunderstanding. Search teams, led by Sergeant Linda Perez, turned their focus to a nearby construction site several blocks from Lucas Hale's home. The area had recently undergone earthwork for a new housing project. Soil appeared disturbed in a small patch near a partially completed foundation. Investigators noticed uneven dirt and subtle depressions that seemed out of place among the graded terrain. It was the first physical lead connecting the digital timeline and neighborhood patterns. The team methodically excavated the area. Layers of dirt were carefully removed, screened, and bagged for forensic analysis. Hours into the search, plastic wrappings emerged from the soil. Deeper excavation revealed what they feared: human remains. The bones were wrapped in multiple layers of heavy-duty trash bags, matching the ones Megan Rowe had purchased the night she vanished. The careful wrapping indicated forethought, not impulsive action. The discovery sent a ripple through the investigation, shifting it from theory to certainty. Forensic teams confirmed the remains belonged to Megan Rowe. Trauma analysis showed evidence of blunt force injuries consistent with severe impact. No defensive wounds were identified, suggesting the attack was sudden and incapacitating. The condition of the soil indicated the body had been buried almost immediately after death, then concealed beneath newly disturbed earth designed to blend with construction activity. Vehicle GPS data placed Lucas Hale near the site on the night of Megan's disappearance, perfectly aligning with the last known movements from his phone records. The site and his home created a direct connection. The calm routines, the volunteer efforts, the polished appearances, all were now part of a pattern leading to an undeniable conclusion. The normal facade of Lucas Hale dissolved completely. Beneath the quiet life, investigators found meticulous planning and deliberate concealment. The evidence transformed suspicion into certainty. Megan Rowe had been killed, buried, and hidden within the fabric of an ordinary neighborhood, orchestrated by a man everyone had trusted. As the investigation progressed, detectives began reviewing cold cases in neighboring towns. Patterns emerged that had been previously overlooked. 2 unsolved disappearances, each years old, shared eerie similarities with Megan Rowe's case. Both victims were young women who lived alone and vanished without warning. Both had last been seen near streets where Lucas Hale had previously resided. These connections were subtle, almost invisible, but when layered atop his current actions, they suggested a disturbing pattern. Detective Aaron Miles dug into Lucas's history. Residences, work locations, and even volunteer activities were cross-referenced with missing person reports. The overlap was too significant to be coincidental. The women had all disappeared quietly, leaving behind no clear evidence of struggle or motive. Each case had been filed under the assumption that the disappearance was voluntary or accidental. Lucas had moved to new towns, established normal routines, and blended into the communities, leaving no trace of his presence as a threat. Investigators also discovered small behavioral consistencies. In each case, the victims were last seen performing ordinary activities, shopping, walking home, or completing a task. Nothing in their routines indicated danger. Yet in each instance, the suspect had been nearby, unnoticed, and seemingly benign. He had leveraged the predictability of both himself and the environment to cover his tracks. For the first time, the team realized they were not dealing with a single impulsive act. Lucas Hale had constructed a life designed for concealment, one carefully adjusted over years and across multiple locations. The normality of his habits, once reassuring to neighbors, became a chilling signature. It was no longer simply a disappearance. It was the culmination of calculated behavior that allowed him to operate undetected, erasing his presence while controlling what no one suspected, questioned, or observed. Lucas Hale's arrest marked the collapse of the illusion Briarwood had long trusted. Charges included murder, concealment of a body, and involvement in prior disappearances connected through meticulous investigation. The calm, orderly life he had projected for years was revealed to be a carefully maintained facade, designed to blend into a town that valued routine and predictability above all else. Neighbors who had waved politely now struggled to reconcile the man they saw every day with the one who had committed calculated acts of violence behind closed doors. Detectives Aaron Miles and Rachel Monroe reflected on the complexity of the case. The danger had never arrived with noise or chaos. It had arrived quietly, hidden in repetition and careful habit. Every step Lucas took, from the emptying of trash bins to the placement of security cameras, the deletion of digital traces, and the precise timing of errands, was deliberate. His routines, once seen as normal and reassuring, were the very tools he had used to manipulate perception and conceal reality. The town grappled with disbelief. Briarwood residents questioned the safety of their streets and the people around them. How could a man so ordinary be capable of such acts? Community meetings focused on understanding how appearances could deceive, and experts explained that predators often operate under the cover of normalcy. It was a lesson in vigilance and subtlety. For investigators, the case served as a cautionary tale. True crime rarely announces itself loudly. It hides within mundane actions, ordinary schedules, and polite behavior. The evidence left behind, from digital footprints to forensic discoveries, painted a portrait of intention and calculation. Lucas Hale had relied on the town's trust and routine. In the end, the most dangerous thing was not what he hid, but how convincingly he made everything look normal, concealing evil behind the veneer of everyday life.